whole entire problem with the whole entire concept of WAP is everybody praises it like it's this amazing thing. The sad part about that is it's amazing, but only for different reasons. The problem with WAP is it's only meant so it can protect a woman or make sex more enjoyable for a woman and a man. The sad part about that is the wetter you get, it's meant to protect the woman from abrasions and injuries within the vagina, basically, at the end of the day, whether we all like it or not. It's not really meant to make the man feel pleasure, basically, at the end of the day. The wetter you get, it's actually worse for a man for the very fact that he's not going to stay hard because there's a lack of friction within the vaginal walls for him to stay hard. And I'm not meaning stay hard as in, he came. No, stay hard as in he's got to stay hard, and there's got to be friction for him to stay hard to want to bust, basically, in a woman at the end of the day. The problem with that is when there's the lack of that, when there's too much wetness in a pussy, you got to do one of two things. Either you got to dry a bitch off, or you got to dry your dick off, or you got to change positions and do all the above at the end of the day. Sometimes you can change positions and make it happen. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you got to dry. Sometimes you got to towel her off, and towel yourself off, and keep on going. At the end of the day, that's the only way you can actually continue during quote unquote WAP. You can't just stay in a pussy when it's WAP, because the sad part about that is the lack of friction makes for a limp dick at the end of the day. And it doesn't mean he came. It just means he's a limp dick because there's a lack of friction. And the sad part about that is, to be honest, when it comes to that scientifically, we all know that, for a man to stay hard, there needs to be friction. The sad part about that is when there's no friction, there's no pleasure, so there's no blood flow to the dick so it can stay hard at the end of the day. When it lacks friction and it lacks the pleasure, then it's going to go limp, basically. Kind of like morning wood. It's morning wood for a little bit until there's no pleasure, and then it decides, not being used, nothing happening, going back to sleep now. Typically is how it works. Now, I will say this, there is the right amount of wetness that a woman could be for a man to last longer in there and still come, but when you get overly wet, it's more so to protect you from abrasions and stupid shit like that that'll happen to your body, injuries or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, it does help the man not get injured while having sex, because there can be the brush burn thing, but the sad part about that is more for a woman. The more she gets wet, the more shit she can actually take on. Let it be anally, let it be rough sex, let it be a bigger dick, a bigger dildo, or all the above, basically, is all it really is. It's so you can take on more trauma to your pussy, basically. That's all it really is. This is Tico, Tren.